ifs and buts in this examination, but getting a top rank itself also, let's say that either you take it as a myth or reality. But it matters when a person gets among you a top rank. So it gives also a message that you can also get that rank. Till yesterday he was sitting on that side and very regularly, very disciplined. But today he is sitting on the other side of the fence and with a top rank. So it is not possible, although there are people who do it also in first attempt. There are people who do it second attempt, third attempt, fourth attempt, even more than that also. A person who does in first attempt, he may not know many things. Known by a person who does it through, let's say, repeated attempts. Because in first attempt, if a person does, so there are many other things, including the luck factors. Although no doubt there are luck factors in this examination. But if you do it with certain consistent efforts, so it becomes a source of inspiration for many people, because not all people are destined to qualify in first attempt. Although yes, people should qualify. One should qualify. But this is how, let's say that once you do not qualify, then you enter in a second phase or a different phase where you can qualify by just dint of your hard work, efforts in a right way. Many people are applying efforts. We see we have hundreds of thousands of candidates experience how they apply efforts. Many people are applying efforts. Many people have lots of talent, potential. They also write very well, but it is up to UPSC to consider only few persons in the list. And you also wonder, we also wonder, why it happens. And we are in search of that wonder. Whether I can get an element of that wonder, so I can also qualify. So even if there are many people, let's say that, applying lots of efforts, but very few results you get, limited number of seats that you have. And in top rank, again, it's very limited. And that's why it becomes a source of inspiration, especially when a person does by efforts. Right, hard work, preparation, which he will share some of the aspects. If you see this year, every year we have some trends. Every year in examination you get some trends. The passing trend this year is that writing skill, presentation matter. Most importantly, let's say, presentation, which I am not telling by myself, but rather let's say that candidates come, those who have qualified, those who have not qualified, and we listen many things from them, and on the basis of that we get one message, one, let's say that defining message this year, that presentation matters in answer this year. Because there are many people who have not better presentation, they have not done well. That does not mean that there may be some other people who have done well, so with a poor presentation. Again, you cannot have, let's say, absoluteness in this examination. But whatever we hear from the interaction of the candidates, those who qualify, those who do not qualify, and on that basis, this is how this year the most important message which is going in the market is presentation matters. Right. And that presentation, let's say, comes by effort. Some people are again destined, they are endowed by God for good presentation. But most of the people are not. Right. You have to apply efforts. Because, let's say, not all people can write with good presentation. Right. This is how. So if you are not endowed by God, so you pressurize God by your efforts so that He can further destine you, isn't it? This is how hard work. Right? And it is quite possible, because some people have done, past also people have done, it is not first time that it is being done. In past also people have done it. So this is how we'll be talking the main aspects Right. Of Abhilash for this rank is his consistent efforts. We know how the efforts have been applied. And it is his effort, let's say in last other such, let's say seminars we have been talking it. Right. Every person has potential, but what is going on inside your mind, you know only. Right. Nobody can know what is going inside your mind. Right. So every person, let's say you feel you are healthy, you are intelligent, you are knowledgeable, but what is in your mind, nobody knows. Right. That we say many a time conscience, the voice of conscience. Right. So this is how, let's say that people apply efforts that guide you, and he will share how you can enhance your presentation, etc. Basics we do not want to talk, let's say that in this class about preparation, etc. Already you may be knowing all these things. He wants to give some of the important striking things which you can incorporate, adopt, learn and improve. So we like Abhilash to talk. Right. In between I will be helping him also. Right. Because this is how he does not, or he was a candidate, he should remain a cabinet candidate and then he should become administrator, not a teacher. Right. This is how it is. So he was a student, so he may not have that way, the way we articulate the things, a student cannot. Right. A student can write well. Right. This is how it is. So he'll tell some of the things on this.
A thing I would like to say that not related to the examination, but this I have to say because see, the thing is that please don't get misguided by the fact that my name is being published at many places. But Lukman IAS is the coaching institute where I was for the past 3 years, and all my selections in the UPSC for the past 3 years is because of Ansari sir's guidance. I am unable to stop. Many people are using my name, but this I wanted to say. So I will begin with that. And now coming to the important portion for which I am here. So sir, I had a talk with sir. So as sir said that we should not talk about the basics because we all know the sources from where we should study and all the basic book material that is there. So if there is some doubt related to the source of study or the study material that you need to take into account, you can ask questions. If not, then I'll move to the presentation skills that I have acquired with sir's guidance over the years, and I'll share that with you. Anything related to the books and source of material. I have not read any particular book for the this GS society part, but I have read basic NCERT for the different terms and concepts related to sociology. So after reading that, I took sir's ED classes and sir's current affairs, and I was reading with my newspaper. So using these two sources, I compiled the current affairs portions related to sociology or the society. And most of the times the question from this society part is generally current affairs based. And if not, there are many topics of the society which are always in the news. You can use current affairs examples and facts from there to write your answers. I have not read any specific book for this part. Any other thing related to the books or source of this material? Art and culture, I have read the basic NCERT. I have read the Tamil Nadu NCERT. So it's according to me, it's a good book. There is a fifth report of ARC. So you can read selectively, get some of the recommendations, write it in your notes, and use it whenever you get a chance in your GS papers. Okay, so basically about answer writing, I would like to tell that the content is the most important thing in the answer. That is granted, that is accepted. but how we present our content is perhaps of greater importance in this era of examination. As sir said, we had in our test series some of the guys who wrote very good answers. In fact, when you read them, you feel how can they write such answers in the examination. But this is how the competition is tough. The people write brilliantly. So the attempt should be that how can you present what content you have in a very appropriate and appealing manner. So for that, you should have the basic content. Now you can use a mix of flowchart, tables, facts and figures, and some diagrams that you have related to the content you have, and use it with your paragraphs, and all this combined should appeal to the examiner that you have presented the answers in a proper manner. So I'd like to say that when I first came to sir, I just if this is the UPSC page, I had the habit of writing this, then paragraph change, and this. So the first thing sir advised me that at least do this, just to present, start from here. So when I looked my copy again, I found that this was like not very good, sort of. If I write in very closely, it was kind of illegible. Now if I write this way, so basic presentation style just improved. Even when a person will look at it, it will say, no, this guy has presented it a little bit better than this guy. So this was the first thing I remember in 2014, sir told me I'll start writing this way. This was the very first copy that sir checked, my format first copy that was checked by sir. So this is just the basic thing. And after that, if you write your answers, for example, you have written a paragraph, and let's take an example. For example, this year in GS paper 3, a question was asked related to Fasal Bima Yojana. So we all know Fasal Bima Yojana. So one thing would be that how I used to write, you can write this way about Fasal Bima Yojana, then different contents of Fasal Bima Yojana, then how it is impacting, and then what can be done more. So this is generally the framework that we use for writing our answers. So another thing that if this is the question paper format, answer format, you can just introduce a Fasal Bima Yojana, how it was, when it was introduced and how it has come into picture. Then simply, suppose in this case, if I use a simple draw box here, and important components of Fasal Bima Yojana, and write here, just 4 or 5 major components that we can recall, we can write here, and then after that, after that, start from here and write some analysis. And while writing some analysis, if you want to say, if you want to innovate more, say, if you want to write advantages and you have little time and you want to write more, just use this, say, advantages, and present different advantages, and write in little boxes what advantages it will have. So this can be some of the ways in which you can do it, but don't overdo it. Like don't do all of it in one question. You can use this in one question. You can use this thing in another question. Vary it, and perhaps don't use it in each and every question. Some questions which will be very analytical, you can just use this simple format and write it. For example, if the question is relating to analysis of a scheme, you can just use it simply and write it. No need that every question should have some diagram or some presentation style. So there should be a mix of presentation style. Don't overdo it, but use it very effectively. Another thing is that when you remember, do remember important facts that is there in the economic survey, that comes regularly in the Hindu or any other newspaper that you read, and compile it with your notes. I need not say that notes making is a very important and critical portion for this examination. Do it very religiously. So compile the data and facts that you get, and whenever you get a chance, you just use it effectively. And when you use it, suppose you do it in a box, or simply I'll tell you another. Prachi was supposed to be here, but she's not here. What she used to do, that she will write some very important things in the block letters. So the whole answer will be in a normal format, but the very important things she'll write in block letters. A little font size would be a little greater than other. So that will when you are seeing her copy, it will immediately strike you that you have written this thing. So perhaps if we don't know how copy is checked in UPSC, but if they see that something good is written there, perhaps marks can increase. So this can be, if you remember some special quotations or some special facts, or for example some ARC you have read and a question regarding that has come, you want to quote it, Write second administrative reforms has said this in the following context and write it in capital. But that should be specific, but that should address the demand of the question. Do not write something that does not fit. Another thing would be, some questions are of comparative type. For example, suppose, or you can make them. For example, suppose, so should I take a question? I'll take a, let's take a GS. Let's first take a, I said about the comparative part. Let's say there's a question related to, in ethics, 7 social sins of Gandhiji. So one way would be, we should note the 7 sins and we should give very good examples for all the 7 sins, so that you show to the examiner that you know these social 7 sins, 7 social sins apply in the contemporary era that we are living in. And you should give, apart from basic examples, some current related examples. So I recall what I wrote in the examination. So in the starting, some basic thing about these social 7 social sins were given by Gandhiji, a basic introduction. Then I just wrote social sins, and here that wealth without work and all pleasure without conscience, and these also 7 sins. Then I say, here I wrote meaning and a basic example that was not current, and here I wrote contemporary application. So here I wrote the sin, here I just explained it in 1-2 lines and presented a basic example that would relate, not necessarily from the contemporary, and I wrote a separate part in the contemporary portion. And for example, say wealth without work. So you can write any good example that you can write wealth without work. So why this public service or this bureaucracy is defamed several times. So you go in the municipal corporation, you observe that many people are sitting there not doing their work. So this is a kind of social sin. You can just write that example. People go for strike, they don't want to work, they demand pleasure, they demand special facilities for themselves but don't want to work. Right? You can write some examples for them. And then for all the social 7 sins. So you can write it anywhere. You can perhaps innovate in a better way, but you can follow this as a sort of basic template that you can do this like this. Sins, explanation, some examples, and then here contemporary examples. So this is a sort of presentation that you can use. And this is true for all the papers. This can be done for all the papers. For example, if I take an example of, let's say, this GS paper 2, this was a question that Indian party system is passing through a phase of transition which looks to be full of contradictions and paradoxes. Discuss. So here the most important thing is that you need to list out some of the contradictions and paradoxes that are there. अभी मुझे याद नहीं पूरा मैंने क्या लिखा था. I am not able to recall the whole answer, but I remember something that I did. That okay, if this was so 1, 2, 3 lines about Indian party system, that how it is passing through a phase of transition, just a basic introduction. Then here you can write some of the paradoxes that we are seeing. So here we can write that demographic dividend, yani young population versus aged leadership of the party, democratic country versus lack of inner party democracy in the party. Third point, party demands transparency from others or application of RTI for others, but itself lacks, that it is reluctant to follow RTI, and some others. So here you can list out some of the basic paradoxes or contradictions that you can see in your party system, and then later you can go for explanation of them, giving example or some quoting some current news that was there in the news. And in the last you can say that if Indian democracy will mature or is about to mature, these paradoxes need to go, and how you can using some reforms that are there, you can remove these paradoxes for the growth of Indian democracy as a whole. You can conclude something like this. So this form of technique can be used for different comparative questions. For example, if there is a question that specifically asks about differentiation or comparison, try to write it in a table form, because paragraph form for them would not be a very suitable choice. And it is not that when you write paragraph you need to write points only. You can also just draw and you can write content on both sides, and that differentiates between them. And you can use this sort of technique for comparative questions or questions that ask for especially for differentiation between two given subjects in the question. Another question, if I take some question from presentation. So we in Lukman IAS had the advantage that whenever sir used to teach some topic, whether it be in public administration or current, sir drew a diagram, and we were like sometimes amazed that how sir every time finds a diagram for that. So we also started this habit that we can also, not very good, just a formal way of representation like this sort of diagram that I dot for advantages, tabular formation for something. So this kind of diagram can be drawn, and if you want to draw some very good diagrams, then while you study or prepare your current affairs, sometimes in the news article itself, if they want to say show growth of GDP, they will use an arrow and just show how it is progressing. Or in economic survey, you can find some very good diagrammatic representations. So you can learn from that and use them in books. In books, there are some very good diagrams. For example, not very relevant for you, but I just recall that there was a topic, and in public administration there was a topic, but in the book there was a very good diagram. It had a ladder. The topic was partnership, and they had very partnership between citizen and the bureaucracy or the government as a whole. So they had started from just listening and then moved on to the immediate that the deliberative democracy, and they have shown that how it moves. So they had this 8 or 10 components. If you present diagrams like these in your answers, it adds value to your answers. So
here I will intervene. That see, it appears very simple that you should write tables, diagrams, etc. And you can memorize some of the diagrams and tables, etc. But that will not work. That will look artificial. Right. You have to make it natural. Natural means you should have ability to draw yourself. The way he is saying how I used to find some of the diagrams with any topic. So similarly, they may have learned also. It's not that you memorize a table and you just simply paste in examination. That will be highly artificial and it will be disadvantageous. When you write table or diagram or the way you are writing these points in examination, it shows lots of clarity in thought. Right. Because even we wonder at times, let's say there are many candidates who innovate. Let's say in examination you don't have time to think. Right. Test you write or you prepare, so you have prepared polity and you come and appear and write the test. You have appeared paper 3 and you come and write the test and then you judge yourself. But when you appear in main examination, you have not read right now. Right. And that is general. And that in examination, when you write in this way, it shows lots of confidence, it shows lots of force in thought, clarity in thought, confidence, that you write in this way, and it's highly clear. When you write even the 3 points he writing, the paradoxes, I will tell you that the majority of people will write in the paragraph and they will go on writing those paradoxes mindlessly, without bringing any clarity. But this is let's say when you write the 3 points, it shows the paradox, and examination is not about writing a book in the copy. Right. This is how it is. It is about simply to write and give the understanding. You don't take simply that, oh, these are the tables and hardly it matters, or oh, I can also do it. It's not like that. Right. When you write and when you are able to do it, then you will say, fine, how it is difficult. Because we know that when we have thousands of people and writing, we find that not all people can do it. Right. And again, he has emphasized in the beginning itself, content is the most important thing. Right. It's not that you take it, his message, your table I have to draw, and right, make entire answer as tables. Right. This is not the point. So you can draw tables, etc., illustrations, only when you have very good content and clarity in thought. Clear you are, then it can be possible. Otherwise, artificiality will be there that you will cut and paste, which is not, let's say that, we are not talking that, yes.
And just to add on what sir said, that this will not happen automatically in the mains examination. It is very, very, very difficult, because in mains examination you are under a lot of pressure because time is less and you need to write 20 questions. So this can only happen if you are in habit of doing this. So if you write in your test series, make a habit of innovating in some part of the questions, then probably it will come out in the mains examination also. So do it in your test series, and we need not say, but writing is the most important component of this examination, especially after 2013. And for improvement in writing, you need to work on your writing skills, and that can only happen when you write a lot of test papers. And write a lot of test papers and use techniques like this, or what if you can do it in a better way, do it and practice it so that it comes out in the mains examination eventually, which will benefit you. Another thing is that when
websites we have the copies, although there are many copies nowadays. Right. So you should not get confused little nowadays. Panicked also by number of copies online. But take some of the copies and learn from them. Right. Those people who write, let's say that getting securing marks, one common thing you can get is that they have very clear writing. Right. You see their copies, right. It's very clear. Right. As if many at times we can say it is typed. Right. It is dictated, as if it is dictated. Somebody has dictated. This way you can find. So some of his copies, other people copies, in fact it is not that he only writes well, again we will tell you that. There are many people who do it. That is how the common thing. Right. Now some will get 19 this is how we can say that. Right. Some will get, if he is getting 125, somebody is getting 124, 129, this is how it is. But all are getting. Right. And this is again, there are two things. One, you are destined by God to write with clarity. Second, that God has given you potential to practice and improve. This is what we decide. Right.
Another very important thing while writing answers is that questions may have many parts. So don't try to stretch one part that you know and leave the other part, because that gives a very bad impression. Attempt each and every part of the question. Even if you don't know something about that part, write that part and write something general about it. It will give the impression that you have read the question very properly. So if the questions have different parts, just one of the ways can be that you so another this, like if a question has many parts, you can just write the, for example, if the question is like three or four parts, you can just introduce the question and write the first part. For example, if the say generally many things can be of the questions can be seen in why, what, how forms. So you can use that form also. For example, there is a question how Fasal Bima Yojana or any other say any other question that you can take, how this scheme is benefiting. If that is the, you just write how this scheme is benefiting, write a question mark and then write here, and come to another part, write the part here and then write, and if there is a third part, write that also. So it will give the look to the answer that you have attended all the parts and you have understood what the different parts of the questions have been asked in this in the entire question. So do it very necessarily, because this is a thing that this is an error that I committed in probably my last year's papers, that many of the questions I had attended, but ignored some of the very important aspects that different questions had, that they had different parts, and I just wrote perhaps on for a larger part of the answer on one part only.
99% people skip some of the parts. This is what our experience. Because some questions are mono, let's say the language, based on one sentence. There will be hardly one question in 20 questions. It is in one sentence. Right. Most of the questions will be either in 2 parts or in 3 parts, right, even in 4 parts. At least 1 question, 2 questions will be in 4 parts. And in that 4 parts, nowadays they are adding also more than one command. They will write analyze, then they will write comment. How you will balance it. This is how it is. This is what he is saying. It takes lots of practice to do justice to all the 4 parts. Yes.
And let's say even if there is a question that is a simple one line question, and that is only, it seems like that it only has one part, sometimes it will have very different angles. For example, what the different problems of a particular thing can. So you can deduce from that you need to cover a holistic range of problems. Just write the problems and different angles. For example, the social problems originated out of the moral problems that may occur, the economic problems that may occur, or the individual psychological problems. Write them in a form, and then go in detail explaining each of the different things that is being asked in the question. So if there is also a question that is of it seems like there is a single question, it can have multiple parts like this. Just to generate your content, you can use this technique. If there is a question in between, you can ask if you have some doubts. I'll take another question. For example, in GS paper 1, see 6-7 questions will be from geography. And Tirthankar sir is here. Last year I came to him, sir, I am not getting marks in geography. So he told me one thing is compulsory, that if you are attempting geography, devote time to it and draw maps and geographical diagrams wherever they are possible. So this year I did these things. There were 6-7 questions. I drew map in most of them. Perhaps sometimes I thought why I am drawing, but I drew it then also. But I drew maps and used them. Even if I had nothing to write if I had no content in the map, I just wrote my normal content in the map in different parts. For example, there was a question of urban floods. It seems like that there is no importance of map in it, but I just drew the map in a small part, and I see that in Chennai this floods came this year because of this, in Mumbai it came in this year because of this, in Uttarakhand it came in this year because of this, and here I wrote some frequent examples of urban floods. So you can use map like this also, not necessarily that in maps you have to mark rivers and all these things. Even if there is some question asked, draw a map of that particular region. For example, if you remember, the last question in the geography was of minor irrigation projects. So in minor irrigation, there are very good examples of Ralegan Siddhi, Jhabua also. So use that map that in India, these portions that are suffering from drought, Jhabua and Ner, because of this, draw that these are rain shadow areas or perhaps other geographical conditions that can affect, because of which the rainfall is less, and minor irrigation project is being used in a very effective way and denote these areas at the proper place where they are in the map. So these kind of things can be used in maps. Earthquake region, we have a very popular map, zone identification, you can use that. If there is a question on earthquake, say it is not directly asking the zonal division, but the question is on earthquake, so you can write a line that India is divided into 4 zones, now it is 4 zones. So you can draw the diagram in a small portion, because that is not the major portion of this answer. Do not draw a big map when the question is not directly pertaining to the things in map. Use it in a small manner and show the zonal classification.
You should not end up writing a paper 3 kind of answer. For example, suppose a question being asked in geography, now UPSC is playing a lot with the interlinks that are available in the subjects, right? So they can ask a question, for example, regarding your farm suicides in geography. Now it becomes very difficult for you. Most of the people will end up writing social points or economic points. infrastructural deficiencies, institutional deficiencies. But when it becomes a geographical answer, when you show it over a map that where the farm suicides are taking place, for example, Marathwada, for example, Bundelkhand, right? Then it becomes geographically relevant. So that is what Abhilash is trying to say. Yes, Abhilash, please continue.
And another thing is that, as sir said, that these days, GS paper 1 has questions which looks like GS paper 2 international relation question. For example, last year the question was is importance of South China Sea. Now here we can write all the important things related to GS paper 2, but remember the question is in GS paper 1, and you can see that it is in the list of geographical questions. So you need to write some geographical importance of that area. Draw a map, show that area and how that perhaps it can be a sea route, it can be rich, it can be a source of rich minerals. So do necessarily bring geographical area in that, because it is a question asked in that paper and it is from geography. Do not write that it is India and China are, you can write that, but in a very limited sense, that India and China are, or many other countries, it is a region of hot dispute and all. It is true, you can write it in a small because it is a thing of current affair, but do bring the geographical angle. One more question I can take, for example, the GS paper 1. So there were questions that discuss the role of women in the freedom struggle, especially during the Gandhian phase. We perhaps can, for this you need content. You should be able to recall names of at least 6 to 7 good names and what work they have done, so that you can highlight their role. So you can, if I recall answer of this also, that so basically, if you just in the beginning, like right here Indian freedom struggle, and right here entry of Gandhi, write the year 1915, and here so write pre-Gandhian phase, Gandhian phase, and come here, give examples of some women, for example Kadambari Ganguly, Beena, or different names I am unable to recall. Savitri Phule, the social reformers also can be brought here. Write some names here. Then here write Sarojini Naidu, Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, write some names here, and then go on explaining how they have contributed. So the content, a majority of the content you have shown that you know, that you recall names of women who have participated in the freedom struggle, you have analyzed. And this question is, I have taken this question specifically because this question is, I am reading it, discuss the role of women in the freedom struggle, especially during the Gandhian phase. So this part of the question is the major focus of the examiner is trying to give major focus to this part. So you just take this part and write it in a smaller portion and show that women had played a role before Gandhiji came in picture, and write some of their contributions, social reforms for women education and for other things they have contributed in the freedom struggle, and then come to the major part and like in Gandhian phase and write in detail in a greater space than what you have written in the first, because the question is especially during the Gandhian phase. You need to pay greater importance to this part. So this is how you need to read your questions and focus on key terms so that you present your answers according to the demand of the question. केस स्टडी तो मैंने तो सर का ही स्टाइल है बेसिकली, तो इस बार तो नहीं था, इस बार तो उन्होंने स्पेस भी कम दी थी, इस बार पेपर लेंदी नहीं था इथिक्स का, हाँ पिछली बार था, इस बार नहीं था, बट apart from McBride Commission, which I think most of us very well, perhaps that will improve 1.5 marks. But if you are leaving a question entirely, you are giving up some very important marks. And in this examination, when the list comes out, you see the importance of 1-2 marks. Entire 20-50 rank you shift. So don't leave any questions. Write some, for example, many of the, I read my McBride Commission paper blank, that portion. But many of my friends wrote something about the UNESCO that was asked, and some general, many general things you can write about McBride also, that this is a great initiative. They wrote something so that and there was a friend of mine, I don't know whether it is complete truth or no, they had a talk with some of the people who used to check. They said that don't leave the copy blank, because if we want to give 1.5 marks, we cannot give it on a blank piece of paper. There needs to be some content on it. So nobody gives 0. Even if we write all the fuzzy stuff, we get some good marks, 60, 70. In the first year of my GS paper, I wrote all the fuzzy things in ethics, because I was not ready perhaps. So I then also got 75 marks, because they will be giving some marks. So don't leave any of the questions blank.
I think basically he wants to know that whether if we leave 1 or 2 questions, whether still we stand chance to qualify.
You stand a chance. Many people have been in the list even after attempting say 16, 17 questions. But that is not a part.
What happens?
Okay. So this year first paper I have got 109 marks. My very good friend of mine, Avreendra Kumar Rai, has got 119 marks. So we were both in the same center. We took around, I don't know, I started writing art and culture. So this is like an error we should not commit. I wrote art and culture 2 questions for 25 minutes. Because this year, first year, I knew art and culture, that questions that came. And in that, when I reached only 10 minutes were remaining, and I had questions 17, 18, 19. And when I saw those questions, those were the highest possible scoring areas of my my paper, because they were very objective, general questions, and on which we had content. But you could not write them well, because we didn't have time. So this is another important thing. I regret the fact that I didn't follow advice of Tirthankar sir. He said first attempt the geographical questions, because these are scoring questions. But I followed him now that I will start from 1 and proceed toward 20. Many people do it that they prioritize their questions. They write in the first 2 hours the questions that they know well, and write it very well, write them very well, and then they move on. And even say, suppose I had done these questions first and then moved on to the art and culture part, and if I had written in 10 minutes these 3 questions, say Buddhist stupa parts, Krishna Deva Raya, and this West Africa, of which I had no idea, I would have scored more marks, I believe. So this thing you can do, you can prioritize your questions. So even in that case, if in that case some questions are left out, you will not regret the fact, because you already didn't know them well. So you can do this, prioritize your questions and attempt them in a proper manner. Take 5 minutes, they generally give copy 5 minutes before, read some of the questions and analyze it, and then plan your flow of answers. How will you write, which question first you will write, and then move on to the last questions. Ethics, sir. I don't think we can count how many words we write, but the thing is that the space is also like that only. This year we had the advantage that space was less. So, and if you want to complete your all the questions in the question paper, you need to restrict yourself. So in that case, this thing also helps in that. Many people write 3 pages because they believe that it's a 12.5 marks question, and if we write just 2 pages and one entire page is blank, it will give a very bad impression. It may be the case, but if you can produce some diagrams in between like this, it will also fill up the space and it will look good also. But do try to adhere to the word limit, because continuous violation of it will can irritate the examiner, that this student is writing a lot but not making much sense.
Right. Let me make your answer more clear. Right. See, it is not about word limits and whether you should adhere. It is more about how much you write. How much you can write in 3 hours. Right. So you know your ability. So certainly let's say that there are candidates who cannot write those 20 questions if they breach the word limits, because they don't have speed. Even if they have speed, it takes time in planning, it takes time in thinking, it takes time in some other else. So certainly already there is limitation that you cannot write too much. Right. Now, accordingly you prepare how much you should write. And there may be, let's say, he may write few words more than 200 and at times few words less than 200. If few words more than 200, it is not a matter. What is the matter is this. Suppose what you do is 200 words, you write 250 words, and 3 questions in the end you left. If you write some questions in 240 word, 230 word, and there are 2-3 questions you are not able to attempt, then examiner will consider you what? Bewkoof. Sorry to say that. Then examiner will, this trend is not liked. Right. Because we have some other good people, we know it, let's say that, name will not take. They also write well, but there is no balance. Right. So you cannot write one answer in 240 word, another answer 150 word. This can be done only when you don't have content. That does not mean if you have content, so you keep writing. So you will not find in his answer this trend. You should rather think in this way rather than whether word limit should be adhered. Right. Certainly you exactly cannot count 200 word. There can be 210. Means your answer you prepare, you start writing something, your view will come to an end. Let's say at 210, 215. So you should end your view there. One answer has one view. So you write it. Or your view can, let's say, come to an end at 195 or at 180, and then you don't have. So this can also be done. But answer should not show imbalance. That is, some answers you give, so you are not able to balance. And this is a negative message. Right. So rather you should learn this thing rather than exactly we have to adhere 200 words. Right. This is all. Yes.
Sir, you asked about ethics. So what should I?
Can you elaborate about the last two cases?
Specific, I don't know. Whether I'm in a position to see that probably sir will deal is the what actually.
Case study he did not. He can only talk whatever he knows as of now.
Yes.
But when this class has been planned, so case study I think rather we have sidelined. This is how it is. Because exactly he is going to say more or less same thing. What I'll be saying, let's say that. So
But this,
yes,
I
still
think
he
the
can
last
answer.
question was the NGO,
Yeah, NGO.
but that was more of a GS question. That
It was word limit was 300 and hardly there was balance.
yes, exactly. Many of us shared the same problem. It had very content seemed less, but there you need to write you need to corroborate each and every content of yours with a very good example. In that way, content will increase. For example, if you write that NGOs do a very good work in social field and help needy and poor in the areas where government is unable to reach. Perhaps if they work in some areas where government machinery is not there. So if this can be one of the points. Now write something. For example, Akshay Patra Foundation is doing some good work in Jaipur. Barefoot thing is doing good for providing prosthetic legs for people who are physically disabled. Write something which is doing some example of Orissa village where, for example, this Koraput, there's a news recently. So you collect all your current affairs and use it there. Once you corroborate what you have written, it gives a support to your answers. In that way, content can also increase. Just in test series, in ethics paper, generally they ask merits and demerits. So that learning from sir's presentation, we used to write in this manner, the point here, then merits for that and demerits for that, and similarly. In some case study you can, for example, if they have as I said, there's a question, not for case study, but also for this, there's a question from in ethics, social influence and persuasion. Let me open it. This, okay. How could social influence and persuasion contribute to the success of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? So this is a question for theoretical part. Now Swachh Bharat Abhiyan can also come in form of test series, like NGO came or the other, and you need to suggest some solutions for it. So you can use diagram. For example, if I can deal with this question first and then come to your specific query. So this was the question: how could social influence and persuasion contribute to the success of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? So I wrote the I was like not on time with my answers here, so I wanted to finish this part very early. So what I did, I wrote something about social influence, how the basic thing, definition portion and all, and then I used a diagram. I drew a pedestal here, a stage here, and then a mic here, and a leader was standing here, and then in the crowd I draw some of the face as normal stuff, and he was speaking about Swachh Bharat, importance of cleanliness. So in paper we see this. One will say there are elements like this in our society, oh this is all useless stuff. Another will say no, I have personally benefited from it. So there will be a discussion, and then probably the consensus will emerge out, no, this cleanliness concept is important. So what is he doing? He is persuading the crowd, and it's a kind of influence that is being produced. So this diagram gives a sense that social influence and persuasion counts. You can use a diagram like this or any other thing that you can think about. This was a very rough diagram. I don't know whether perhaps it would look good if so it can look good. So you can use diagrams like this.
Because you said you are doing an examination at that moment. So it is downstairs. Because not all people can, idea will not come. You don't have time to think, and there in examination you will get anything. It's always downstairs.
So these are the things you need to do it in your test series. Then only it will happen in the mains, as I said earlier. So
as far as he is asking questions, see, case studies are already structured. Right. They are already having different parts. Right. So I don't think that's why he may not be able to tell what you are saying. Case studies are already structured. Right. They have different parts, 3-4 options, 2 options at least, and then within 2 options there are different demands. So answer will automatically get structured. This is how it is. Still, he can tell I am not anyway trying to come on that way. So
no, like specifically, sir, please, what you want to know?
I am not concerned about the content. I was just asking that
Structuring.
presentation.
Okay. Structuring.
Improvement in the
Yes. So basically, I used to, and many of us used to write it like this only. For example, we used to draw a table. If the question is like advantages, disadvantages, merits, demerits, pros, cons, so we will write the point here and then brief, write the few points here. Not too many points, just 2 to 3 points for each of the options. But here the structuring becomes important in the sense that there must be one of your options which you are going to choose amongst the listed options, or you will write something that you want to suggest apart from the given options. So if you are choosing a particular option, that should be in a greater detail compared to other things, because it is the option that you are choosing. You should address it in a very holistic manner. So you can write the merits and demerits here, and then you can come why this option is a good option, and then list out the benefits of it. And in here, if you are talking about diagram and all, here if you want to, while explaining the relevance and importance of this option, you can use whatever you want. If the diagram comes to your mind, use it. This is the basic structure. And in the ethics case study, try example should be there. Whatever you are trying to prove, you should prove it with example. Because we can write a lot of good things that this can be done, this should be done, but what is its importance? That you need to correlate with a particular example, and example should be context specific and a practical one.
I think you can get his structures on his copies, or if you go to online or website, on that website there is a link, and through that link there are many copies. I'll tell you that he is one of the most outstanding student. Right. He can write well, better than what he can tell. Right. I told in the beginning itself. Right. So some people are very good at writing. This you should know. They may not be as articulative, although he will be in future, no doubt. Right. So, but the question is that so far the task was to be a student and write good answer. Right. That he mastered. So you can learn more from how he structures, which he may not be able to tell with that emphaticness as he can do in answers. This is what is. Right. And it is now, that in examination it happens. Every time you write main peer interview, thereafter you think now I don't have to study. Right. So this is also a thing that ki once result come, etc. So you don't want to put stress on, right, all these past things, examination. So since it is a time, so he may not be, this is the problem that not able to recall. But he is a very prolific writer. This is what I will tell you. When you see his answers, he is outstanding in articulation, in compage, which will say in future he will do as an administrator.
See, practically many times we miss. That is a reality. In the pressure in the given the pressure in the mains examination. But when you are attempting the questions, or as I said in the test series, make it a habit that mold your answers according to the keyword. When there is a comment, there should be a view in the last that is your own view and your like sum up view over the matter that is in their question. If there is a question related to the keyword is illustration, there should be a very good example. Example is perhaps the most important thing in this type of questions, which should clearly explain what has been asked in the question. If there is a question with a keyword justify, then there should also be example. Elucidate, make it clear. You should explain it in simpler terms. And then again, example in general you can use in any of the questions. But for keywords like elucidate, justify, illustrate, you can use good case studies that you have read in your current affairs, good examples that you can bring for these type of questions. And when there are questions like analyze, you need to analyze it from all perspectives. If the question is like positive and negative, do it from that angle. If the question is having sectoral implications for economy, society, and not do it from that angle, analyze it from societal perspective, analyze it from economic perspective, analyze it from moral and ethical perspective. And if the question is of pros and cons or the negative positive, analyze it from the positive implication that it is having, analyze it from the negative implications that it will have. If the question is of critically examine, you should in most of the, like you should in the last say that how the given statement is not true. The given statement is critically examined. You need to prove in your answers by writing that this statement is not perfectly right because of the following grounds. You can write something positive for them and then perhaps a greater portion of it for negating the statement in the question. These are some of the keywords, and if you write your answers according to keywords, I think it will benefit. Essay, see, I have basically a struggler in essay, so I will not be able to tell you anything. Manoj sir will be here. I think he'll maybe on his way. He'll be here. He has got very good marks in essay. I have never got good marks in essay, so no point heeding to my advice. Fiscal deficit is not a jargon. It is a very well-known term, and हम लोग को jargon नहीं आता, इतना नहीं आता कि jargon वगैरह पता हो. तो पर question ये है कि simple, जितना simple लिख पाएंगे, the simpler the question and how easily it can be understood is a key. If you can understand what you are writing in the very first attempt of your reading, and in reading few lines you get the flow of the answer, and I think it produces greater impact. The complex you write, this is a thing I committed, this is a flaw I committed in essay. My essays are very complex, large paragraphs, no breakages, so I always get low marks. I tried to improve but could not improve much. But write simple, small sentences, small paragraphs, 4-5 line paragraph, so and in a very simple words. So I think this will be more important than jargon or another complex words. Then you see, this is a very objective question. If you are not aware of the 7 sins, you cannot. If you write wrong 7 sins, I think it will have a major impact. So if this is the kind of question, if you don't know, you can't attempt it. You write something about why Gandhi gave social sins and what context. Write something. Do not write these are the 7 social sins and write wrong, since you don't know them. If you don't know a particular answer, beat around the bush. Never go to the specific. For example, the McBride Commission, the UNESCO. So people wrote about UNESCO, a brief 4 to 5 lines on UNESCO, and just wrote that McBride is a good attempt in correcting in the international affairs, and India, like in all other moves, is also supportive of the fact. This is all general stuff, nowhere what McBride means. So just to fill up a page or so, and don't waste time on such questions. Do it as quickly as possible. But for example, 7 social sins, do not write wrong. Yes, ma'am. For the, after my first attempt when I came to SIR, for the past 2 attempts, 2014 and 15, I think for the, generally there is 3.5 months, I can say easily that me and Avneet and all used to give 2:1 for our optional, because our optional was like that, if we don't study, whatever we do in GS will not be selected. So we gave a greater time on optional. So we were saturating our marks there, we will not getting much marks there. So this last year we decided that sir also told us that GS mein number badhna chahiye. So this year we gave more importance to GS, perhaps brought it on an equal footing, we gave equal time to GS. And this year PubAd was like, we didn't give much focus on PubAd compared to earlier attempts. But the UPSC is like that, I got good marks in PubAd. This is also a myth or reality thing that sir was talking, but this is how. But the thing is that each paper is of 250 marks. So there is no point like mastering one paper and leaving the other. The optimum strategy should be that you should give each paper its due importance. For example, otherwise, if you have a technical subject, then it's a different matter. Because
they were able to disperse their time on GS more simply because they are very thorough with the optional. Right. And any candidate who is not thorough with the optional, certainly let's say that you cannot disperse equal time. You should not distribute equal time unless you are thorough with optional. Because optional is the subject which you should in any case secure a kind of guarantee good marks. Otherwise there is no chance. Okay. This is how you can see any top those rank where there can be. Even those who are getting 470 in GS, still they have 290 in optional. The 7th ranker, still they have good marks in optional, let's say, not bad, but near to good, around 290, 300. Right. So the question is that whatever the optional you have, irrespective of whatever the optional you have, right, the first priority should be certainly given to optional. Right. And if you are not thorough with that, you cannot make in 3 months. You can make in GS 3 months a difference, but in optional, in that between prelim and main, you cannot make a difference. Right. Optional require lots of different orientation in preparation. Right. And this is how we can tell, although Abhilash should not take otherwise, but you should know that Prachi was also supposed to come, but she had examination. She is at training center in Dehradun, so she is not able to come. But she has in GS 449.
450 marks, yes, 449.
Right. But she has in optional
political science and
200?
290
around.
272.
Right. So she has 272 in optional. He has in optional 334 and in GS 444. And let's say her rank, unfortunately, we find it on very lower side, and it is on top. Right. So optional is a thing you cannot prepare in 1 day, in 3 months. This is whatever the optional you have, be it anthropology.
So let me redeem myself. Actually, Prachi also happens to be my wife, so I'll say she is on top. She is on top because we prepared together, and perhaps, as I said, I used her name here also. She guided me in the ethics paper and all this presentation. She is very good in presentation. That's why sir especially invited her, so she can guide you. But unfortunately, she is not. She could not come here. So she scored very good marks in GS, 450 I think is a very good total this year.
Yes. Any other question? So we finish.
We should read current affairs regularly from our newspapers, and don't waste time on a lot of resources. There are so many resources in the market that one tends to see, oh, I have not read this, I have not read this. Read your newspaper, whatever you are following, and add on to it with say a particular coaching magazine. I did it from Sir CD notes. If you like it, do it from here. So you can see that, okay, I have prepared this notes. Sir has given this additional information on this topic. You can write it on your notes, and add to it. If some topic Sir has covered extra from some other newspaper that the research team has brought on the surface, you can note that topic also. Using this, you can prepare your current affairs accordingly. But prepare your current affairs according to the syllabus. Have always syllabus at the back of your mind, and write the syllabus. Leave some pages if you are preparing on the hard book, and then prepare your notes, so that whenever you read your current or revise your current affair notes, you can relate it with the topic in the syllabus. In that way, you can analyze the question that is asked in the examination in a better way. Few notes we had prepared in a very, but frankly speaking, we were also not able to revise very properly. This is the truth. Now I can say anything, people may believe it, but the truth is that we were not able to revise very properly, especially the third and fourth paper. But if you see that fourth paper, there is not much to revise. Once you have written your test and you have prepared well, there is not much to revise. For paper 3, whatever time we had, we gave it to paper 3. And we just had a fact sheet. We used to prepare a fact sheet, 5-6 pages, and all the facts written on it. So before just entering into the examination or the day before, we used to revise the facts according to the different topics, so that we can use them whenever we get a chance in the question paper. So you can revise what is to be exactly reproduced, and that is reports, commission, topics, facts. So that needs to be remembered and marked up, so that you can write it in the examination. Otherwise, it is impossible to revise all the things. Especially in optional paper, it is very difficult to revise. No, only current part, and that too not very technical. This all Mars orbiter mission, which were in the news and were very important topics. These kind of things, and some components that they had, like if this Mars orbiter mission is there, or cryogenic engine that is coming, some recent technical news that is there in the news, or India's indigenous efforts towards them, because it is also a topic, indigenous technology. So that portion only, not from any books or anything. Prelims का कोई notes नहीं है मेरे पास. For the mains I had. See, I'll say the importance of notes is not that much in prelims, because there are options there. I have also given my attempt in these days only, but see, if you have read some content and that has been asked in the question paper, there are options you can make out. I never found the relevance of notes making for prelims examination. If you like it, you can make it. That's your prerogative. But I'll say that is of lesser importance in this pre format. Read all the basic books and notes that are there, and read it twice, thrice before the examination. And that if you have read twice, 2 to 3 times, you can make out from the options. Because there you have to use your technique, how to eliminate, how to use what you have studied to eliminate the options, and then mark the correct answer. Yes, for the modern history portion. See, Lakshmikant, because my optional is so bad, I already had good notes for it. So I had, in addition to it, I had sir's GS paper 2 and GS paper 4 notes because I attended the class here. So that were a basic compilation. In that, if I wanted to add some current affairs, I wrote in that only. For example, if there's a topic related to RTI or citizen charter, and if there was a recent news, in that I just drew a box and wrote some recent things. And whenever I revised those notes, I could recall what the current affairs examples or what current affairs news were there. No magazines. Sir, CD notes. That is not typically a magazine. And some articles of Yojana, if I found, if somebody used to say, okay, these are current affairs. And then I clubbed it with the different facts, government schemes, government plans, and I said ARC I had read to fifth portion, public security. I used the recommendations of that in security. And like this only, these were the sources.
Let me tell, I had rather speak on behalf of Lohit. Lohit has Maharashtra cadre. So he'll be coming on 29th. He wrote one book on internal security. Perhaps it may be in market. It is factually good book because it gives you about different institutions, their role and functions, etc. So apart from people that he is taking name, you can also see that book. And he has written another book, let's say, which will be launched on 29th, perhaps, let's say, tentative it is. That book is related to civil services, different services you have. In 23, 24 services that we have. He has written about all those 24 services, their profile, and related case studies. So it can give you some understanding on, let's say, IRTS. So what is IRTS? What are their job profile, career future, etc., the issues, problems, and 1-2 case study related. Similarly, there will be Indian audit and account service and related. This is how it is. Right. He has been focusing after going in service on these areas. Right. So he may have some motivation to continue. So you can look into it. It's a good book on giving some information related to different services, although it is yet to come, which we are supposed to have on 29th of this month. Any other question? Basically, we wanted to keep this session only on, let's say, that this presentation, answer writing, etc. Although he can do or speak some other things, etc., but we wanted to focus on this only. It is simply because if you find any key factor for his success or securing whatever in optional or in GS, so it is just because of all these, not only again will tell you table, etc. Right.
Content,
it is
content
about
has to be there.
Making the answers, like the presentation. You know that this examination is not about beauty. It is about content. Right. So content is, along with content, when you add beauty, so certainly let's say that it will have right, double impact, triple impact, more than that. So this is how you should take, and you should prepare, because somebody was asking key terms, somebody asking how to prepare all these things. Let me say that people hardly care for their answers presentation. Many people struggle for completing the paper at all. Right. Anyhow to complete the all answers. So all those people who are struggling to anyhow complete those answers, 20 questions, so they cannot focus on all these things. Right. So certainly it is not for them. Because then your task is to simply write answers. Right. Even will tell you that even you don't write all these things and you write content, lucid one, still you are going to secure marks. Right. This is just to add some quality, let's say that. There is, let's say, another person, 87 rank, who will come on, I think, 10th of July. The person who got 129 in ethics. Rajit Nair, right. He also writes very well, right. And he'll tell you that some of the things how to write. So the question is that the most important thing in the answer is lucid answer, right. You can take anyone who are getting these all lucidity. Then it comes the presentation. Great. So this you should prepare. It's not about writing test. It should about largely you struggle. You are answering whether we should make notes, etc. Right. No doubt you should make notes. You should have notes. You should prepare, study, etc. But when you are making notes and studying, it is still not your time has come for these things. Your time come for these things once you are thorough with notes, once you have studied, once you have done all these things, right? Then you start planning for your answers, right? How I should plan, the way, let's say, these ideas come, etc. These ideas will come once this foundation you have laid down, right? This is how. That's why it will not take much efforts, right, to write all these things. You can write effortlessly, right? And in beginning it will take time. So this is what we'll be telling it, and it is quite possible. You should try to apply efforts if you have a speed of writing. Marginally you should try to have a speed. If you see the answers the way they write, if you write 1 point, they will write 2 points. If you write 2 points, they will write 4 points. That does not mean they will write 10 points. It becomes cumbersome then. Right. You don't have to write 10 points. Now you have to write 4 or 5 adequate points. Right. Last year we also had Naman Upadhyay, let's say that, and he got, his copies are also there. If you see, he got in all GS paper 4 last year 100 plus. It was not more than 406 or 8.
407.
407. But all the 4 papers he had 101, 103, 102. This is how it is. Right. And it was again pure efforts. Right. This is how. It's planning. Writing. Right. So last year they may have learned from him, although he was batchmate, no doubt. But the question is that this is how, let's say that about content writing, presentation, etc. But that will come only when you have clear knowledge. Right. This we are not ignoring. These things will not come unless you are thorough. It's all the democracy, etc. Right. Do you have knowledge? Do you understand what are paradoxes? Right. Which he is not focusing in his answer. What is paradox? How many people are able to understand the paradox? The term. Right. We have gone directly to write the paradox, but how many people understand the paradox at all? Right. This is how. How the idea come that you have to write 7 scenes also, you have to write their example also, contemporary relevant also. Question is not demanding. This question is not saying to write with contemporary example. So this is how it comes in your mind. It comes in your, let's say that those ideas. And many people, let's say very few people may be knowing 7 sins, let's say that. But not all people. Even if you know 7 sins, still you cannot write good answer. Means not you, let's say somebody else. Right. It is simply, it is not again no, merely I was not knowing, so I was not able to. When you know whether you are able to write then. Then what you should have written simply the 7 sins. Because we know when we ask another question, let's say that this year, 7 principles of Nolan committee. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? Right. Probity in governance. There is a topic. Right. So Nolan gave 7 principles. Right. So Nolan committee, it gave 7 principles. We asked this question in our ethics paper. Let me say how people are writing. Some people, I think many people know 7 principles of Nolan committee. What they did is that we have written comment on the 7 principles of Nolan committee. Right. Related to probity in governance. What people are writing? 7 principles and explanation. They are not commenting on 7 principles. First you write 7 principles. You don't have to explain. It is not explain the 7 principles of Nolan committee. Question is not this. Comment on the 7 principles of Nolan committee. But people are writing explain the 7 principles of Nolan committee. And they are explaining the 7 principles. It is not comment. Right. So even if you know, let's say that, the 7 principles, but still people do not understand what exactly the demand. Perhaps let's say that we have not focused, when we are talking, we have gone beyond that and exactly telling only those things. It means already these things, questions have been understood. This is how, the way he explains. Right. So these are, let's say, there are many other aspects. Everything cannot be covered in those all short span of time. So, coming. Okay. So Manoj, I think he will especially speak on essay, I think. Although again he will not tell goad him what to speak. Right. But he will tell he got secured 155, I guess.
59. 159.
Right. In essay. Right. Do you call him? I will not take much time. I think, right. We'll finish? Ah, yes. So, although tomorrow he will talk on optional public administration, we did not keep today because optional is different thing and we want to keep it very separate. Optional we take like religion. This is how we can say that. Not only, let's say, Islam religion, Hinduism also. So optional is like religion. This is how it is. The way religion is important, optional is important. So optional you should study rather religiously. And they are, let's say that very, very outstanding, I will tell, in optional. And that was possible by 3 years. This is what we told, 3 years of the effort. Although I should tell all these things tomorrow, right. But I will tell you that there are many people, they write 1 year, they join our course 1 year, 2 year, or 1 year thereafter they say that I have already done what I should do. This year I don't want to do it. I have wrote your test program 2 years already read. So is it relevant to join this year? This is how they say. Or, sorry to speak all these things, people do 1 year and if it does not work, they don't trust. They try to find out something else. Right. Anyhow, there are different type of people, you will find that. But this could have not been possible without trust. You have to trust for 3 years. Right. So you should also find a teacher, right, in whom you can have trust and who can guide you. Anyone, right, because it is possible, let's say that, again, a person, you have potential, parents have applied efforts to nurture you, many things, but there is also a role of a teacher or a person who guides. There should be any person, not all students approach to teacher. There is no any enmity, difference, nothing, let's say, but this is how it is. Not all students approach to teacher. Very few students will approach, and you develop some relations, and this guides you. Yes, yes. It guides you. You should have any person where you can share your some of the things which you are not able to share right, it with any other person for this examination, right, and that gives you certain motivation, certain inspiration, certain level of continuity. That is also very important. Anyhow, now Manoj has come. So he will talk some of the things. Right.